Hi guys, welcome to our test review for adding and subtracting fractions and mixed numbers. How this will work is I will give you a problem, you'll pause the video, solve it on your own, and then you'll come back, we'll work through it together, and you can double check your answer. It is super important that you pause the video and actually work it out on your own. This review is just to help you, and it's better if you know what you actually know versus what I can use to help you. All right, so we'll go ahead and get started with 2/5 plus 3/4. So go ahead and pause that and solve it on your own, and then come back to check your answer. All right, welcome back. The first thing I see is I have two unlike denominators, so I want to find my LCM, or my least common multiple. I will do that with 5 and with 4. Multiple is another way of saying count by, so I can count by 5s, 5, 10, 15, 20, and so on. 4, 8, 12, 16, and 20, and so on. And I recognize that they both have 20 in common. My next step is to convert my fractions. 2/5. If I want that to have a denominator of 20, I will think 5 times what equals 20? That answer is 4. Whatever I do the bottom, I do the top. 2 times 4 is 8. Now I'll look at 3/4. If I want that to have a denominator of 20, I'll ask 4 times what equals 20? That answer is 5. Whatever I do the bottom, I'll do the top. 3 times 5 is 15. My next job is to add those two together. So I will add 8 over 20 plus 15 over 20. When I add fractions, my denominator stays the same. 8 plus 15 is 23. Now, it's super important that you realize that this number, 23 over 20, can be reduced into a mixed number. So to do that, I will look at 23 over 20, and I can realize that I can break it apart into 20 over 20 plus 3 over 20. The reason I break it apart like this is because 20 over 20 is 1 whole. So I now have 1 whole plus 3/20, giving me a final answer of 1 and 3 over 20. If you do not simplify on the test, it will be counted wrong. So make sure that none of your answers will be these improper fractions, and instead you convert them to your mixed numbers. All right, I will zoom out so you can go ahead and pause if you need to figure out where you went wrong. Otherwise, we will move on to our next problem. All right, the next problem we will look at is going to be 1/5 minus 1/6. Go ahead and pause and work through this on your own, and then come back and we will do it together. Welcome back. Hopefully you notice that you have two unlike denominators. So we need to find our least common multiple, or our LCM, of 5 and of 6. When I count by 5s, I get 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, and so on. When I count by 6, 6, 12, 18, 24, 30. I see they both have 30 in common, so my next step is to convert. When I look at 1/5 and I want it to have a denominator of 30, I think 5 times what equals 30, and that is 6. Whatever I do the bottom, I do the top, and I get 6 over 30. When I look at 1/6, I do the same thing. 6 times what equals 30? That answer is 5. 1 times 5 is 5. Next step, I subtract 6 over 30 minus 5 over 30. When I subtract fractions, my denominator stays the same. 6 minus 5 is 1. And that is my final answer because that cannot be reduced. All right. So pause here if you need to figure out what went wrong. Otherwise, we will move on. All right. Our next problem is 1/1/2 plus 3 4/7. Go ahead and pause here to solve and then come back when you're ready. All right. So when I go to add my fractions, I realize I have two unlike denominators. So just as we have before, we'll find our least common multiple of 2 and of 7. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, and so on. 7, 14, 21, and so on. I see that they both have 14 in common. Now with mixed numbers, as I'm converting the fractions, I can just kind of ignore these whole numbers out front. So I want to convert 1/2 to have a denominator of 14. 2 times what equals 14? That is 7. 1 times 7 is 7. I do the same to 4/7. 7 times what equals 14? That is 2. 4 times 2 is 8. My next step is to add the full number. So this is where I bring in those whole numbers. So I have 1/7/14 plus 3 8/14. I always start with my fractions. 14, when I'm adding fractions, my denominator will stay the same. So 14. 7 plus 8 equals 15. Now I'll add my whole numbers. 1 plus 3 is 4. And again, it's important to realize that this is an improper fraction, meaning I can simplify. So if I were to break this down, I would get 4 plus 14 over 14 plus 1 over 14. And this here, again, is broken apart of my 15 over 14. The reason I split it is because I know that 14 over 14 is one whole. So I'll carry down the rest of my numbers, and then I will add. 4 plus 1 is 5, and I have 1/14 left over. So my final answer is 5 1/14. Pause here if you need to. Otherwise, we will continue on. All right, my next problem, 4, let me switch colors. 4 2/3 minus 1 3/4. So go ahead, pause here and solve if you need to, or solve and then come back to check your answer. All right, welcome back. I will see that I have two unlike denominators, so I will start with my LCM, my least common multiple, of 3 and with 4. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, and so on. 4, 8, 12, 16, and so on. I see that they both have 12 in common. So I will convert my fractions. 2/3, if I want it to have a denominator of 12, 3 times what equals 12? That answer is 4. 2 times 4 is 8. 3/4 But I want it to have a denominator of 12. 4 times what equals 12? That is 3. Whatever I do the bottom, I do the top. 3 times 3 is 9. My next step is to subtract, and don't forget to bring down those whole numbers from our problem. So 4 and 8/12 minus 1 and 9/12. Now I always start with my fractions, and here is why. If I only have 8, I can't take away 9, which means I need to regroup. Now to regroup, I'm going to look at my first fraction and stretch it out. 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 8/12. As you can see, I broke my 4 into ones, and I kept my fraction the same. Now what I can do is take this one whole and turn it into its equivalent fraction form. So now I have 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 12/12, because that is one whole, plus my 8/12. My next step is to just bring those together. So I'll bring my wholes together, 1, 2, 3, and I'll add my fractions. 12 plus 8 is 20. So now my new problem is 3 and 20/12 minus 1 and 9/12. I start with my fractions. The denominator stays the same. 20 minus 9 is 11. 3 minus 1 is 2. And that is my final answer. So let me zoom out. You can pause if you need to. Otherwise, we will move on. All right. And this will be our final problem of our review. So we will say Amy's flower plant was 6 1/8 inches tall. Her pepper plant was 2 1/3 inches tall. How much taller was the flower plant than the pepper plant? All right, and let me make that number a little bit easier to see. That was 2 1/3. All right, so pause here, go ahead and solve this problem, and then come back to check your answer. All right, welcome back. So when I read this problem, the first thing I will do is highlight the information I know I'll need to use. So the flower plant was 6 1/8 inches tall. Her pepper plant was 2 1/3 inches tall. I'll circle what I need to know. So how much taller was the flower plant than the pepper plant? So I know my flower plant was 6 1/8 inches, and my pepper plant was 2 1/3 inches. Now when it says how much taller than, that signals subtraction, because I want to know how much taller was this plant than this plant. So my problem is 6 1/8 minus 2 1/3. To solve this, I will look at my unlike denominators, and I'll find my LCM, my least common multiple, of 8 and of 3. 8, 16, 24, and so on. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 24, and so on. And I see that they both have 24 in common. I know I'll need to convert 1 over 8. If I want it to have a denominator of 24, I have to multiply 8 by 3. Whatever I do at the bottom, I do at the top. And I get 3 over 24. For 1/3, denominator of 24, 3 times 8. So I'll do the same to the top. 1 times 8 is 8. My next step is to subtract. I'll bring down my whole numbers. So 6, 3 over 24 minus 2, and 8 over 24. I'll start with my fractions. If I only have 3, I cannot take away 8, so I will stretch out this first number. I have 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 3 over 24. So I can see I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 wholes in my fraction. I'll take one of my wholes and change it to its equivalent fraction form. So these all stay the same. So my wholes stay the same. And I know that if I have a denominator of 24, one whole is 24 over 24. Now I'll combine my wholes and my fractions. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 24 over 24 plus 3 over 24. My denominator stays the same. 24 plus 3 is 27. So now I will subtract using my new numbers. 5 and 27 over 24 minus 2 and 8 over 24. I always start with my fractions. My denominator stays the same. 27 minus 8. I will regroup and I get 19. I subtract my whole numbers. 5 minus 2 is 3. And this is my final answer. I'll zoom out. You can pause if you'd like to see if you went wrong. And that is it for our review. So we went over one of each type of problem you'll have on your final test. If you think you need more practice in one area, you can always look up some practice problems or go through the review again. And we will have our test tomorrow. Have a great day.